and welcome back to Matrix Radio. We are discussing near-death experiences, and what I have is a very interesting, well, let's see, hold on. I don't have my, I'm going to have to get back into my switchboard. It is not playing fair with me. Okay. I'm going to play a very interesting interview that Barbara DeLong did with a woman by the name of Michelle. And at the when that interview is over, then we will take calls.
This is Barb DeLong. I'm talking with Michelle today, and we're going to talk about her near-death experiences. And I want to thank you very much, Michelle, for sharing this with us. I know that this is something that you don't exactly talk over cocktails about, and it's not something that comes up in conversation a lot with the general public. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing with us today what you experienced. So you want to explain how the first time your near-death experience happened, and then the second time?
I will.
Okay.
Well, the first time, I didn't understand that that's what that was until later. I thought that it was a dream that I had. But I remember whenever I was 5 years old, my dad was outside breaking horses, breaking a horse in particular. And he had gotten the saddle on her, but wasn't able to get actually on her back yet. And she was in the middle of the barn where you would walk through. And I wasn't supposed to be out there, but I was always free spirit. And I decided I'm going to go, and I snuck out, and I went, and I was watching what Dad was doing. And he didn't see me, and I walked around the back of the horse, and the horse kicked me. And when it kicked me in the head, and I was thrown against a stall door and knocked unconscious. And when I did go unconscious, Dad carried me back to the house, but I woke, when I opened my eyes, I was blind. They noticed that I couldn't see. So they loaded me in the car, and I don't remember that part. The only reason why I even know or remember the ride is that's when I think I had my out-of-body experience. I remember very clearly sitting on the hood of a red car and watching my dad hold me in his arms. I remember looking through the window saying, "It's okay, Daddy. I'm okay, Dad." But I remember watching him hold me and watching, like, knowing that that was me with my long hair and everything. And so for a long time, I don't know, I just thought that was like some dream that I had. And then I told Mom about it one day, and she was like, it was a red car. And that's what they took me in the hospital in, was this guy that happened to drive up, that our horses drove a red car.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know, since I can still remember it pretty vividly, that I really think that was an out-of-body experience, because I just remember it was so real.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds, and you were observing yourself, which is what most people who have out-of-body experiences do. They're close to themselves, and they see themselves going through something, and they feel fine, and yet they know there's concern there.
Mhm. And that was actually an interesting experience, because whenever I got back to the hospital, or when we got there, I couldn't see, and I remember very distinctly, like, having my eyes open and feeling the tears and feeling that my eyes were open, but I couldn't see anything. And for a 5-year-old, that's scary. So I had pretty much a whole day where I couldn't see anything. But I was lucky the next day when I woke up, I could see again. It's kind of blurry at first, but what had happened was my optic nerve had been stunned.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than broken or damaged. So I was lucky.
You were very lucky.
Mom always calls out the day she learned how to pray.
Yes, as a mother, I can totally relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was then how many years later that you had the other experience?
It was about 12 years later.
Okay. And how did that occur?
Well, I was 17 years old, and I'd always been a pretty good kid. I made straight A's through elementary school, and then middle school I started making some B's, and then in high school I started hanging out with older people that didn't go to school, that did things that high schoolers just don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was presented with a world of that I wasn't old enough or street smart enough to understand. And because I'd always been from a really wonderful family that we all loved each other and trusted each other. So I was a very trusting person. And I had some events happen because of situations that I put myself in that were very dark. And one in particular was with a male that was a lot larger than me that locked me in a car shop and turned on a loud machine so that I couldn't even hear myself talk, and ordered me to do some pretty disgusting things that I didn't want to do, but I was so scared that he was going to kill me that I just gave in and just let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
And after it was over, not only was I in pain, but I was terrified because he told me that he told me not to go to the police because he had friends in the circuit, and he said, don't change my number because he'll find out what it is, and pretty much made me feel like just terrified and, oh my gosh, what have I done? Who is this person that I brought into my life? And he also told me that, he would hurt my family if I told anybody. So he just was really a scary person.
It sounds it.
And for the next 2 weeks, I just completely lost I just didn't want to live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because every day I thought about it, and I wanted to tell somebody, and I was scared, and I felt like I couldn't, and I didn't know what my rights were. I didn't know I didn't trust anybody with confidentiality because he had scared me so much. So I just would go to work and come home, and I was doing some drugs that I would never do now, but
mm-hmm.
back then it seemed to kind of numb the pain. And one day in particular, I went to school and they gave us our report cards back, and my younger brother has always made straight A's. Still in college, he still makes pretty close to straight A's.
Mm-hmm.
And I got home from work that night, and I was late because I stopped to hang out with some friends and totally disregarded Mom, and was like, I'm going to come home whenever I want, and I was supposed to be home at 10, and I came home at 10:30, and she stayed in the kitchen, and she was like, I really don't know what to say. All I can say is I'm disappointed, and I'm going to go to bed, and we'll talk about this later. I don't even have the energy for this right now. And so she went to bed, and when I was walking by their bedroom, Daddy had already gone to bed, but I heard his voice say, Jordan brought home his report card today, and I want to see yours in the morning. And my report card had an F on it.
Oh, my.
And I had gotten a couple of C's in some honors classes, but I had never gotten an F. And it sounds a little bit weird to other people, how something so small could mean so much to somebody. But I could not show him that.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It was just, that was the end. So I went and got all the, I just decided that I was like, you know, I don't want to wake up in the morning. So I went and got every pill in the house that I considered to be medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grab any vitamins or anything. and 2 big glasses of water, and went in my room and poured all the pills on my bed. And I went in the other room and kissed my brother on the cheek to say goodbye to him, because he's always been my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt very guilty. But my logic at the time was, man, everybody would be so much better off without me.
Yeah.
I need to just go away, and everybody, even though they'll probably, you know, they'll be sad, I thought that it would be better in the long run if I just disappeared. And so I went back in my room and I took the pills and made myself lay down, and after about 5 minutes I could start to feel it starting to hurt in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
But I just made myself go to sleep, and this voice kept telling me everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, while I was doing all this. And I remember as I was swallowing those pills in handfuls, it was easy for me. It wasn't hard. I wasn't scared. I just had decided to do it, and I've always been somebody, if I decide to do something, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to jump off a cliff, I'm going to jump off that cliff, and, you know, even if other people find that to be a little bit crazy, it's just the way that I've always been. So I just remember the voice saying, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. And I closed my eyes, and I don't remember anything after that except being in a bathtub and hearing running water and seeing my knees, and then my face just flying towards my knees, like really, really fast, and then everything going black, and I don't remember anything after that. And what had actually happened was Dad found me the next morning, and Mom saw the color of, I had actually regurgitated a little bit in my sleep. I think that's what saved me, because they found me 8 hours later. I took about 350 Advil, about 30-something Tylenol, and some Bayer aspirin.
Wow.
And some Tylenol sinus or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom saw the color of the Advil and knew what it was. And so they stripped all my clothes and tried to put me in the bathtub to revive me. And then whenever I quit breathing, I think that's whenever everything went black, whenever I remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
But they called the paramedics, and paramedics took me to the hospital and put me on life support. And I don't remember any of that, but I do remember what was going on in my reality.
Yes.
And it wasn't, I can't say that it was, a lot of it is still vivid, but a lot of it will remain a mystery to me. But how would you like me to explain that?
I think that you know what you're comfortable with. What was it that you were feeling? Did you have any sensation of actually being in another place, in another reality? Did you feel people around you?
Okay. I remember being in a few different places, and there's 4 that are very vivid, and then everything in between. I remember seeing a lot of different colors and moving really fast. But the place that I was at the longest was, I remember just colors and moving fast, and then being in the presence of this light. And it was hard to explain. It was like the sun, but it didn't. It was so much more beautiful than the sun, and it was. It's like it was drawing me towards it. It's like I wanted to be near it, but I couldn't get closer to it. I was just, and I remember I didn't have a body because I was just floating, and almost like if you put your arms back, like the girl in Titanic when she's flying.
Yeah.
It was just that kind of feeling, but I didn't have a body, and it just felt like I was just flying. And I was trying to get close to this light, and no matter how far I traveled, I didn't get any closer. But it was just a very just like a yellow kind of light surrounded by a deep, deep blue. So the place that I was in was like a deep blue. And the only way that I can describe the way that I felt was like a warm blanket whenever you're cold and you've got that security and you feel, you're like, yes, I'm warm. And it's cold, but I'm warm right now. And it was like that kind of feeling, and just like I felt like there was definitely no time. There wasn't any. I really didn't even have any thought, and it just felt like I was exploding everywhere at once. And I felt just like in a constant state of love. Like when you look at something that you really love, like your puppy or your dad or something, it was like that feeling times a million, and just being in that state. It's the most wonderful feeling I've ever felt. But it wasn't just like a feeling. It was actually a state of being. It was. I really wish that there was a way to put it into words the way that it felt. But
you certainly are expressing it beautifully.
It was amazing.
Okay.
And I don't know how long I was there on this end. But there, it felt like I was there forever. It felt like I was there for years upon years, because time was not even a question. And I also remember being a place that was there were people, but they didn't look like people. And it was like if you were in a room of people and you close your eyes, the way that you feel everyone around you,
right,
and you hear their voices, but you can't really see them. It was that kind of. I could see people in a different way because I didn't have a body and I didn't have eyes.
Got you. So, yeah. No, I actually do understand what you're saying.
But I remember there being a lot of people, or a lot of beings, or I can't describe. They did have voices, though. And they were all together, and they were so happy. And I wanted to be with them, like that popular group in high school that you want to go stand with, but you're too scared to it might tell you to go away or something.
Oh yeah, I can relate
how
to
people
that.
like admire, yeah. And I remember just looking. I just remember and being like, I want to be with them.
Mhm.
I want to be there. And I remember a lot of things coming at me,
Mhm.
almost pushing me, and they didn't really have faces, but I could definitely feel what they were trying to express to me, and they weren't dark, but it did hurt my feelings. It's probably the most hurtful feeling I've felt. Like, I've felt some pretty painful stuff in life, but this, I remember just being so disappointed and not understanding why, but they were all coming at me all at once. Well, I'd get one face at a time, but I just remember they'd say, go back to your mommy, go back to your mommy, go back to your mommy, go back to your mommy. And it would seem like they just did that for a long time. They were just all coming at me, and I was being thrown back, like pushed backwards.
Uh-huh.
And I was saying, why? No, I want to be here. Why? And I just remember that the way that they stressed, mommy, go back to your mommy.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they were making fun of me because I've always called my mom mommy. But it was like, why? No, I want to be here. And after that, I remember seeing. It was like I was little again, like I was like a toddler. And I remember seeing my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away when I was 5, and I've never been able to remember him.
Yeah.
Except for his funeral. I just remember being at his funeral and telling Dad to wake him up. But I don't remember his laugh. I don't remember what he was like, but I've always heard that he was a lot like my dad. And when I actually saw him, I thought he was my dad because he was sitting like my dad sits. He sits, the way my dad sits is if he's sitting on the edge of a chair, he'll put his elbows on his knees and just kind of lean forward and kind of like move his hands when he talks a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, as a matter of fact, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And I remember seeing this and thinking, Daddy, and then thinking, no, that's not Daddy. And but just being in his presence. He didn't talk to me or anything, but I remember and he was laughing, and he was talking to people, and he was happy. It was like he was telling stories or something. And I also remember being in a place, and at this point, I was seeing different things, but it was like lights out, lights on, lights out, lights on, and I was like seeing different things, and I don't remember a lot of the images I did whenever it first happened, when I first woke up, but I do after that. Best I can remember is being in a place that looked like mountains, and everything was purple with sparkles, and I was just kind of like traveling through. Place with purple mountains that were sparkly, and it was nice, and I could hear my mom's music, and I just remember thinking, like, acknowledging her music, like, oh. And then I started, that's the last place I remember being before I started to float back into consciousness.
And how long were you unconscious?
I was unconscious, I don't know.
Okay.
I remember, it was only a couple of days.
Okay.
But I remember the first thing that I remember, I think that happened on a Wednesday, morning, I went into the hospital. And on Friday morning, I remember the first thing I remember was like sensing light, but I couldn't open my eyes, but just sensing that I was in a bright room. And I remember this sweet little voice saying, "It's Friday morning, you're at Hendersonville Hospital. She said you're restrained because you have a tube breathing for you right now, and it has a balloon in it, and we don't want you to try to pull it out." And I remember thinking, no, I couldn't talk, and I couldn't, I tried to move, but I remember thinking, no, I was so devastated to be back in my body. It was, it makes me cry to think about it. It was the most painful thing.
Oh, well, I can imagine after being in a place like that, coming back to reality, no matter how loving it is, it has to be painful. It has to be difficult.
Oh, it was, and I was trying to tell her, no, I've been gone forever. I've been gone and I was like, I'm not here. I'm not back here, no. And my body just felt like I'd been hit by a train. It was pretty painful.
Well, after being out of body and feeling unconditional love, being back in body has to be a shock.
Yeah. But I couldn't talk. I couldn't tell her, and I couldn't open my eyes either. But I remember just wanting to tell her, no, that's not true. You're wrong. And yeah, I was not happy to be back.
No, most people aren't. Most people kind of think, it's sort of like, how can you come back into a reality that is not unconditional love? And that's what you experience when you are on the other side. And, there's always a reason we're sent back when that happens. There's something you need to do. There's something you have meaning in life, and there's something for you to accomplish. And certainly your life you have much better understanding, I'm sure, of life as a whole now. Certainly initially it's no, I don't think so, and then it's all right, what is it I need to do? So this clearly.
Well, the thing that's interesting though is whenever I floated back in to my body, it happened very gradually, and I remember hearing Mom's music and just kind of coming back. And whenever it took me a little while to come to. I didn't just wake up. But I remember seeing my brother. I remember seeing my parents, and just kind of floating in and out. And then I remember whenever I actually woke up. For the first time, and knew, yes, I am in my body. I remember looking down and seeing the restraints and seeing the tube. It was like a mask on my face, and hearing it breathing for me, and seeing that I had an IV in everything. I had IVs in my arm, IV in my toe, IV in my wrist, and it was very odd waking up in a hospital.
It's knowing that your mother is very musically inclined and very, very talented. In a way, her music provided a safety line for you to come back home.
It did. It did make me feel very safe, and I've always felt very comforted whenever I listen to her music. It's one of the best. It's one of the best medicines. Jordan, my brother, still listens to it if he gets a headache or something, and he can't relax, and it'll make his headache go away.
Oh yeah, no. Music is an amazing tool, instrument, gift that some people have, and they literally can cast a web of healing and safety, and certainly you grabbed onto a thread and followed it back. And
well, whenever I was back though, and I was actually I was breathing on my own again, and I was able to speak. Anytime I closed my eyes, I could go there. I could go where I went. And I told Mom, she was asking me a lot of questions, and I told her that I didn't go anywhere. I was here the whole time. I wasn't in my body, but heaven, if that's what it is, or the place that I went, I didn't go up or down or whatever. I was here, but somewhere else.
Yeah.
And whenever I closed my eyes, I could see that light.
That's
for a while.
Well, that's an amazing gift that you got. And
yeah, I definitely was shown something very special, and I didn't have to go anywhere.
It feels almost like
it's like I stepped through a veil or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds almost like a dimensional shift. So that you hit another reality for sure. But now since then, this whole experience has to have changed your life dramatically.
It did. It did. It made me. Well, first of all, when I saw how much it hurt my family, at the time, it was probably one of the most horrible things that ever happened to our family. It was pretty bad because nobody saw it coming. It was like I blindsided everybody because they had no idea that I ever had those bad things happen. They didn't know that I felt like I had nobody to talk to. And my family was like that at that time. We were at a point where we were all going through different, we all had our different dramas, but we were all a family. And my dad wasn't happy with his job. My mom was, she was just we were having communication issues. She didn't know what to do with me because they raised me so well, and I wanted to test every rule there was. If there was a rule, I was going to find out for myself whether or not it was something I shouldn't do. And I was very hard-headed, and I just completely disregarded anything that she said. Even though now she's my best friend in the whole world. Her and my dad and my brother are just, and my sister Christy, we're very close. And I think like whenever from an aerial view with no time, just looking at like everything kind of like in a timeline kind of way, I think that point, when that happened, it actually brought our family together. It made our family realize that it had gotten weak. And now, 7 years later, we are stronger than ever. We're tight.
Well, yeah, and it sounds to me as though you also have a different perspective on life, that there's a greater appreciation of life and family and a horrible experience, but one that led to a closeness that is profound. And certainly, I don't think you will ever look on death the same way you used to.
Mhm. Well, now, right after it, I was not happy, and they actually put me on Prozac and stuff to make sure that my emotions were under control and that I wasn't a danger to myself and just all this stuff. And they sent me to a rehabilitation center to make sure that because they had found drugs in my system whenever they ran tests on my whole body when I was at the hospital. So after coming out of that and everything, I really wasn't a very happy person, and I didn't understand why I didn't die, because everything that happened in like reality, I should have died. Like, my parents told me that I should have died.
Yeah.
There's no question about that, and I couldn't understand why. Mom said, you're not finished. You still have work to do here. And it wasn't until 5 years later that I really started to love life and to appreciate life. And I had moved myself out to California, and I was on my own, and real world, you've got to support yourself and pay bills and work hard. And I was in a beautiful place because I wanted to be there, and I started reading books, and I started listening to, first thing that changed my life was The Secret.
Yeah.
And then I got into all of the Abraham tapings, and then I think what changed my life the most was Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody should listen to that. I think it's just absolutely, it changed me, because I was given a gift that I didn't realize. And I had this thing for a long time where I was like, why me? I'm not that special. I'm your average girl. I didn't go to college. I'm in college now at 20. I went back. But I'll get there in a second. I'll tell you how I got there. But I pretty much learned at 22, after listening to Conversations with God, after realizing that I have control of my life. I am here because I want to be here. Once I started to own that, then I realized that I'm untouchable. I can do anything that I want to do. So from that point on, once I started to grow into that and started to change my thoughts to a positive way of thinking and not putting my thoughts on the negative, and I love my life. I love my life. I have moments when I'm watching sunsets or I'm watching like little kids play in the sand together, like that I want to cry because I'm so thankful for my life and for the ability to be here and to be able to experience this. Because when you get to where, if that's where we go when we die, you don't experience pain. There is no pain. So I have a very physical job that's very demanding. Sometimes it is. My body's in a lot of pain because I have to stay in really good shape. But I've learned that pain is always temporary, and that anything that you decide to do, you have the ability to do with your mind. It doesn't matter what your body thinks. If your mind thinks you can do it, you can do it. So I just can't even stress how much looking back at that experience has helped me because I know that there's nothing to fear when you die. The only thing that's sad about death is the people that are left behind, because they remember you and they miss you, and you're not around anymore. But whenever you go, you're not looking back like, oh, I wish I was still alive, or oh, a car ran over me. You don't even look back. You go into a constant state of just pure love and happiness. And I have a feeling that whenever you go and it is your time, that those beings that I was around welcome you and, embrace you and are happy to have you with them. But when you are in life, the pain and the happiness are all beautiful because you have the ability to have that contrast,
right,
when you're alive. And that's the thing I think that experience gave me the most is I embrace pain as well as happiness, but I experience a lot less pain now, knowing that I am the creator of my thoughts, and that any situation that I experienced in the past that was negative, I don't have those experiences anymore because I don't allow them into my experience. I don't allow that to be my reality. I don't think that bad things can happen to me because I always will the good stuff. I look at what I want, the good things that I want, and I focus upon that, and I don't focus on the crummy things. And if anything crummy comes in my path, there's always solutions.
Right.
And I always, sometimes things will look bad, but I'll know that there's something good that comes out of it. And for some reason, it's gotten so clear to me when things happen that are negative. Whenever it's over, there's always something good that happened for somebody else, or something better came into my experience. And I really don't know. And I don't know what my purpose is. I think that we all have lots of purposes in our lives. And the only thing that every day that I try to do, anything that I want to do, I try to do my best, A. And B, I love helping people. If there's any way that I can help somebody, if I'm walking out of a grocery store, or if I'm walking into a grocery store and I see somebody that needs to walk across the parking lot to put their cart away, I'll say, hey, I've got that. And then I'll grab their cart and I'll use it for myself and take it inside, But any way that I feel that I can help somebody, I'm going to do it because it makes me, I just really enjoy it.
Well, I think that you're an amazing illustration of what happens with people who have this experience, because you experienced for a brief flash of time unconditional love, unconditionally. And you were embraced by it, surrounded by it, you were infused with it, and you brought that memory back with you. And that's the kind of message, the kind of gift that you can give thousands of people by sharing your experience. And not only that, not only sharing your experience, but living your experience and taking the lessons that you brought back with you and living them, being an illustration of what that unconditional love can do for humanity and for your fellow man. That's an amazing experience, and I got to tell you, inspiring. Someday you will do something with that message that will be profound.
Well, I think that honestly, it's also changed me in a spiritual way, because I understood Jesus and the teachings of Jesus so much more. There's things that if you look at the New Testament that he said are things that I experienced, like heaven is on earth. People just can't see it. Well, I understood that very well, and also do unto others as you would have done upon you. I mean, I feel the most alive whenever I am helping others.
Mm-hmm.
It just infuses me with happiness and just, I love, I like to look at myself as a very bright light.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I come into contact with anybody, if I pass somebody walking on the sidewalk, I'm going to look at them. I'm going to smile at them. If somebody, if there's ever a chance to give somebody a compliment that I notice, like if I really like their shoes or if I like their hair or their purse, I'm going to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we are all special. We all have something to contribute, and that we help each other along the way. And there was I heard a really good song one time called "We Are Each Other's Angels." I believe that. I just think that we all have something to give to each other.
Absolutely. And
I like to think of myself as a bright light that shares my light with others.
Well, I would certainly say that you do that, and I would say that you're going to do it more profoundly as you get older. You're still very young, and the wisdom that you have inside of you is wisdom that most people never even touch or find inside of themselves. So what a gift you've been given in an unusual way, but what a gift you came back with. And
I'm actually so grateful that I experienced all of that in the past and that I had that negative contrast, because even though I didn't go to college right when most people do, right out of high school, I kind of blew that out of, I didn't even want to go. I was not in a happy place inside myself and didn't really know what I wanted to major in. And now at 24, I'm in college. I have a job that I enjoy. I help people every day with my job. And I don't think that any age is ever too late to go back to college, number one, and B, we never are done. Some people think you turn 30 and it's downhill after that. No, every age gets better and better. I love my 20s right now. I know that I'm going to love my 30s when I'm a mommy. I'm going to love my 40s because I'm going to be super self-realized. I'll probably be traveling the world because I'll have more of the means to do that. I'll have the time and the money to be able to do that. And with my 50s, I mean, just everything gets better and better and better the older you get, because you become more self-realized and you are smarter and have more wisdom to be able to plug in and do the things that you want to do.
Absolutely.
So if you ever can't do something right now, you know that you can do it later if you work towards that.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait to live my life. I can't wait. I want to live to be 100 at least.
At least.
I take very good care of my body. I eat very healthy, basically because I want this body to carry me. It's been through a lot. It's scars, but I'm more healthy now than I've ever been in my whole life.
Well, you know something, the joy that comes from your voice, it's very clear and obvious that magic has happened and miracles have happened, and you are radiating that energy. So I'm gonna thank you, Michelle. I'm gonna turn off the tape now.
Okay.
And find.
And welcome back to Matrix Radio. I'm your host, Patrick Cook, along with Barbara DeLong. You just heard an interview with Michelle. An anonymous name we used because she preferred not to reveal her identity. But that was an absolutely amazing story, and it goes right along with exactly the same things that all the other experiencers that have been on our show tonight are saying, and that is that, well, it's just amazing. You see your body. You rise up above your body. That's always the overture to what happens. the unbelievable feeling is that, a lot of these people have had very traumatic injuries, and they don't feel any pain. They feel a warmth. There was one man that I remember hearing him say that warmth brought him a great cooling, and cool things, cool air or whatever it was that he was feeling brought him great warmth. And what's amazing is leaving behind your family, your friends, the life that you lived. Of course, some of us would just as soon get out of here anyway. But leaving all that behind without any regrets, and actually being very disappointed that you had to return, whatever that is must be incredibly enthralling to cause a person to go to that extreme of just simply saying, no, I just don't want to go back. I belong here, and there's a feeling of that you belong there. There's a feeling that you know the people that are not just the people, but whatever entities happen to be around you, that you have a feeling inside that you know who they are, and you know, even though and then you pass, there's always you keep rising up, and you see a light, sometimes starting out as a distant light, sometimes going through a tunnel. One man called it a tube, like a roller coaster, that he was just roaming around in until he finally got to the light, and he sees the light. There's always the light. The light is very warm. The light, everybody seems to know that you must go into the light, that it's important. And then they meet friends, they meet pets, they meet other beings. Some people call them angels. Some people call them just beings. Sometimes beings that seem to be made out of light. Sometimes solid figures. Sometimes beautiful creatures. But then suddenly they are ripped right back into reality, and they're told that it's not your time yet. And there must be something to that.
There also, Patrick, there's no concept of time either.
Right. That's very important as well. Now we have a couple of people calling in. Area code 21831 is calling in. 831, you're on with Matrix Radio. Would you like to talk, or are you just listening to the show?
Hi, this is Christina calling from California, and I was the caller on the earlier show. And I just wanted to say that was a beautiful, beautiful testament of what I always say is in life, when things happen, whether it's an illness, a passing, a move, maybe somebody that you love that's really close to you simply takes another path and they're no longer in your life, a divorce. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And when you're in it, you may not feel that it's a blessing, but in my view, I really believe that everything that we go through is a blessing, whether we view it as a negative or a positive, because what happens when we come out of that situation is a complete miracle and blessing in my eyes. And like the young lady was saying, I mean, she's in school. She's stronger than she's ever been. She's so grateful for her life. And it was absolutely beautiful. And I'm just listening in, but I really needed to make a comment on that because it's so needed, and I'm so thrilled that you had the idea to tape that and then play it on the air. I kept thinking, wow, all these people, but that's a wonderful idea to have people come forward and share what their view and what their experience with life and what was the circumstances surrounding it and the transformation that took place within, and now as a result, the ripple effect in this world. So thank you guys. I'm just listening and enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that was fascinating about that. Now, Barbara did the interview, and I noticed it was about 48 minutes long, and I said, it's going to be kind of difficult to squeeze this in, so I started going through it and listening to it. And I went back and I listened to it again, trying to pick parts out that I could pull out of it. And I could not find a single thing. So I just said we fortunately had some wonderful guests that called in and gave us their own experiences that Barbara found, by the way, which was an amazing thing on your part, Barbara, and I'm sure we could probably do this. We were actually talking about doing a show on nothing but near-death experiences. We've got such a favorable response to this. But this is that's the important thing. She was particularly sincere, and most especially, I was very enthralled. She's obviously a very young lady. We know her mother, and it was just very, very lucky that we got that interview in its entirety, and especially, go ahead.
I have a sister who lost a 15-year-old son. It was on April 27th of 2009, and her biggest, and it was to suicide, and her biggest fear and worry is just always asking over and over, is he okay, is he okay, is he okay? And I've shared my experience, but after listening to this beautiful young lady share what her experience was like, I know now that I'm so blessed that I can download this show and I can forward this to her, and this is going to bring her so much comfort because it was absolutely, in my opinion, the truth and so beautifully put. And I just want to thank you, Barbara, for doing this. And also, I apologize, I don't know what your name is, sir, but I'm so glad you didn't. I'm so glad you didn't pick anything out of it, and I'm so glad that you chose to share this. And what a blessing. And that message, I know, has helped so many people, myself included, because I got a lot out of that. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, but I got to also say we were so overwhelmed with material when we started looking that next Friday we're having Lynn Katai on, who did the Phoenix Lights, but she also had a near-death experience, and it affected her life as well. So next Friday is a continuation because we couldn't put 6 hours together.
Right.
Well, I'll definitely be here, and I'm going to let a lot of people I know. I'm going to tell them about the show. I'm going to forward the information. Because I really believe it's so beneficial and will really, really touch so many lives. I was in awe. And thank you for letting me make a comment. Thank you guys so much. And I'll hit mute, but you guys, many, many blessings, and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. It's very important. That's why we're here. We're not here to be rich or famous. There's no question about that.
Well,
but
Patrick, we've got Suzanne's in the queue too.
Oh, okay.
That's 201.
But anyway, we're here because of the fact that we feel like sharing this information. There are the only figure I was able to get is 8 million people in the United States alone that have had near-death experiences. Now, we have 5% of the population, so you multiply that by 20, and that's 160 million people that have had had near-death experiences. I'm quite sure that it's in every society. Of course, we don't know about it because we're pretty much stuck here in the U.S. Are you back with us, Suzanne?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, good. I am here.
Okay.
And I wanted to say also, earlier in the segment, you were talking about the new generation of people coming in. I wanted to say that the new generation now are these crystal children who are amazing. And soon, one of these days, with these children coming in knowing everything that happens, they don't even have to die to know this. We have to die to know this information. They're coming in already knowing this. So I'm sure one day we're going to have a whole, world of people coming in that already know this. They don't have to die to know it.
Right. Well, I have a very good friend, I believe she's probably still in our chat room, who is my partner in my work, Billy Brinkley, and she is, well, I know she's at least a second generation, what they call indigo, and she has a granddaughter who is also showing those signs. And I don't know, you know, I'm rather skeptical about thinking that anything is new. I think we just discover things now. Perhaps this is a new thing, but we don't know. This may have been going on throughout humanity, that there are special children, these children grow up to be adults. And everyone that I've met that's an adult is absolutely fascinating. They often find themselves being rejects of society. They find themselves in, they're the ones that can't possibly color within the line. It's just not in their nature to do it. They question, they question what's going on, and you know, everybody says, well, anybody who questions everything that's going on around them is, you know, just pretty much an abnormality in society. But when you look at what's going on in society, you wonder why everybody isn't complaining and everybody isn't against what's going on, because it's very unjust. But they call them crystal children, they call them star children, they call them, they go by a number of different names, but I basically think they're all the same thing. But what's amazing about this is that it's all of this, all of these powers that humans seem to have. Now, I don't consider what happened to you, Suzanne, or you, Christine, as a anything that's inherent. You got caught perhaps in a situation that could not be stopped. In other words, you, but there's no question, if, you know, we can presume that everybody that dies goes through the same thing. I know people have had near-death experiences that haven't died. Barbara knows about situations where definitely we saw the spirits were seen rising from the bodies. Many nurses, many doctors report this. So the whole conceptualization of this is absolutely amazing. And what you guys, you must have a purpose. Why would they send you back? That makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So in other words, there's a glitch in the system. Perhaps that's where ghosts come from. Maybe they get caught somehow or another in a vortex, or apparitions in general, and things like that. But it seems like what happened was, and was it you, Suzanne? Let's see, was it Suzanne? No, it was. Well, one of the ladies said that she heard two words: "Not yet." So that must mean that you have a purpose, and all of a sudden, somehow or another, fate cheated you out of it, and bingo, you're brought right back. That's the only thing I can figure. What do you guys think about that?
My thoughts on this is that I strongly believe that first of all, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe that my near-death experience was planned. I believe it was a seed that was planted when I was 6 years old. And I believe it wasn't meant for me to realize it and remember it until my spiritual awakening. It was almost like a seed that was planted. Now it's fully grown, and I remember it. And it's just more confirmation for me that the spiritual world does exist, and that I do have a purpose to help humanity. That's what I believe. It was
right.
supposed to happen for a reason.
Well, it's amazing. Now, see, I'm nothing. I've got one of the largest sites on the internet on UFOs, and I've never seen a UFO. I talk about all these spiritual things, ghosts, and the whole nine yards. I've never seen one, never experienced one. The only thing that convinces me that it's real is that it is so prevalent, that there are so many. You know, if one or two people are talking about this or that or the other thing happening, then what you can do is you can surmise that perhaps it's not really true. But when millions of people say that they have passed over to the other side, turned around and come back, there's no question in my mind that that's exactly what happens to everybody. And I just read a verse right out of the Bible, and I want to say I am a biblical theologian, but I'm a comparative theologian, and I believe that this concept, the concept that we actually leave our bodies, don't go to any place to be condemned or rewarded, we just join the cosmos, basically. And what's amazing about it is that it seems to be a universe. It's not just an earthly thing. It's not just a human thing. It seems that once, and I don't know whether it's happened to either one of you, but it seems that you feel a oneness with everything, and it's not restricted to this planet or just near around you. That you feel like that you can see a broader whole. While it seems to be unlimited, that it just goes on forever, and that's what I've noticed many people report in their sightings. Not sightings, in their experiences.
That is very true. I do feel a oneness and a connection with everything, not just people, even plants, animals, nature, everything. Right. It just goes on and on.
And I believe it's called panoramic memory. Is when your life flashes before you. And one of the interesting things was I don't know whether it was one of the, I've heard so many of these, and they're all so similar. It's very hard to make a distinction between one and the other. And what she said was that her life passed before her, I believe it was a recording. Her life passed before her, but she didn't see people. She didn't see things. She actually saw the essence of her life passing before her. Did you guys have anything similar to that happen?
Mine just happened so quickly. All I knew was that I wasn't myself. I wasn't the personality that I was when I was in body. I was just that love. I was just that love feeling. That was me. That was who I was, and I just encompassed everything and everyone. I was that essence. I didn't see it. I felt it.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know how Barbara feels about this, but we did a lot of research on this. Barbara did the interviews, so she's probably a little bit less in awe than I am. Because she actually she did it in real time, but I am just enthralled by the whole concept. Why, I wonder, is it not more of a subject for? You see, again, I get back to the thing. Just imagine if and they are studying it. I put a link in the chat room on an article called "What Happens When We Die" about a study between over 100 universities and medical centers, and what it is. This study is called AWARE. It's something about resuscitation, cardiac resuscitation. And what it was a number of doctors and nurses came together. And what's amazing about this is that I don't know whether either one of you were able to recount immediately what happened. But, the typical thing is that somebody will flatline, and they've made it all the way down to the morgue, getting ready to be chilled. And all of a sudden they'll wake up, and they will be able to tell the doctor which golf course he was going to after he left, what his about that expensive pair of shoes she bought. Tell the orderly, know that the orderly was worried about his girlfriend and everything like that. Conversations that were going on in the room in front of what they thought was a dead body. And this happens, it's not just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, up to 4 hours. We had a story just the other day, Barbara, and I believe that was a 3-year-old, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. He was 4 hours?
Huh?
He was 4 hours dead?
Yeah, he was dead for 4 hours. He fell through the ice, and they say the reason that he survived was that he his body temperature, his core temperature went down very fast, so he was able to. But he came out saying he saw Granny.
Well, he said his grandmother sent him back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely amazing stories that come out of this. So it's children.
You know, Patrick, a lot of what's going on is that mainstream everybody has not been open to hearing these stories. They've probably happened for generations, right. but people have been afraid to talk about them for fear they'd be put in a rubber room. So today, with a new time frame, a new mind frame from the public, people are easier with sharing, and of course giving them a platform like this where several of them can come on and talk so that they know they are not alone is a great thing.
Right, and more people are questioning this. People that wouldn't have been open normally are now saying, well, you know what? So many people are saying the same things or having these same experiences from all over the world. Maybe there is something to this, and they're willing to at least listen now.
Well, now, here's an interesting story that I discovered in this. This is called Fiesta de Santa Maria, Fiesta de Santa Marta de Ribarquin. And this is a story. Every year in Las Nieves, Spain, people who have suffered near-death experiences in the previous year get together to attend Mass in celebration of St. Marta de Ribarquin, the patron saint of resurrection. Now, they actually have a festival on near-death experiences, and it's amazing the number of people that have been through this. I found an interesting story on Kelsey Grammer, who had a near-death experience. And he called it his return to the Great White Way. This is consistent throughout society. If we can cross this barrier, if we can get through this, and like I say, we have been dealing with the paranormal for thousands and thousands of years, and science is a fairly new thing. Especially in the way that we see it now. And what has happened is that people have put their foot down and said, okay, you can be. A famous story that I heard was about a woman who woke up and claimed and started talking about a near-death experience. And the doctor told her, well, I'm sorry, sweetheart. That was just a mental reaction. It's all in your head. And so he left the room, and the nurses gathered around her and said, no, darling, that's not in your head. We see patients having that all the time. And so what has happened is they finally had enough of it, and they want to know what's going on. So they've even gone to the extreme now of painting, now get this, painting pictures on the floor of recovery rooms and surgery rooms, so that if a person does claim, of course, you're generally flat on your back, you can't see anything except the ceiling, which is the way you go anyway. And so what they've done is they found that people can actually recall minute details in pictures that are drawn on the floor, even though they didn't even know they were there. Obviously, they had no idea that was going on. And so if they can get this now, the general line, let me tell you what the general line is now. Now, I don't believe that near-death experiences are anything new. I think that this has been happening for thousands of years. At least it's not a new phenomenon. And so basically what's happening is that they're saying that climate change has raised the CO2 level in the atmosphere. And what you ladies went through was you were actually intoxicated. You were starved for oxygen because of the CO2 and that was what you got high on carbon dioxide. And basically, it was just a drug-induced stupor that you were in. And, I don't know how they can be so similar with that, but that's the standard line now. That's the story that's out this week. They'll come up with something new, but if these scientific evaluations come together, and science is going to have a hard time swallowing this, because I guarantee you, the last thing they want to admit is that there's more to life than just what we see during this short 80 to 100 year period that we live on the planet.
I asked my doctor about it because I happened to be in there last week, and I told her we were doing a show on this, and I said, you know, what do you, from a medical situation, what do you feel about this? And she said, we don't talk about it because the insurance doesn't cover it. And I said, well, okay, Medicare doesn't cover a near-death experience. Okay, but what do you think? And she said, it's so real, it's unbelievable. She said, of course it happens, and we have no explanation. And when you have no explanation, then you deny. And if you don't have a good enough explanation, you deny it even harder. She said, the reality is we can't explain it, so we ignore it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time that we stopped ignoring it. You know, science, I don't know exactly how science is going to deal with it. They take everything and basically run it through a mill. Bottom line is what has happened. There's a serious problem with science. Science, they don't call them pigeonholes, but they call them criteria. And everything that needs to be explained must fit into a certain level of criteria. If you can't see it, taste it, smell it, and touch it, it doesn't exist because you have no way to measure it. Science has to measure everything. And if you can't measure it, it can't exist. So they're stuck in a physical world. They've got blinders on, and they're watching a movie that just leads them in one direction, that they can't go on either side of any parameters. So we're pretty well stuck. Now, if they get through this, then maybe they can start studying some other more important things. Except I think that this is probably the most important thing you could study. And it's interesting. Near-death experiences in a Boolean search, I mean, specifically for that concept, comes up with 767 hits. And yeah, here's I just typed in the news. It's near-death experience explained by high levels of CO2. And they don't take, they really don't take it seriously at this point. But of course we do, and I think that what we have done, bottom line, is discover the mystery to the afterlife. Not we haven't discovered it. You guys discovered it. Told us about it.
Well, I think it's one of them. I think there are probably many, and when you find one new road, you can almost be assured that there are many others as well. But it's the acceptance of the general population into the different way of looking at things that's so important. And once you get people accepting this concept, and they don't have to totally believe it, they have to just listen. You know, I don't think anybody's looking to convert anyone. They just want people to give it a chance to sink in. Yeah,
and they're doing it. They're doing it on TV. They're bringing the experiences to the booth tube. I'd love to see a movie made about this. Has there been? Does anybody know whether there have been any movies that have been made about?
I do know of one.
Which one?
I don't know if you've heard of Dannion Brinkley, very famous man who had
Yes.
3 near-death experiences and wrote several books. There was a made-for-TV movie about his books, about his near-death experience, Saved by the Light, and that was a made-for-TV movie. I'm trying to think of when that was out. It was a little while ago, but it showed his near-death experience, and it was Julia Roberts' brother. I forgot his name, but he played Dannion Brinkley, and it was actually on TV.
I remember the title.
Yes, Saved by the
Light.
Actually,
the book, I'll put a link into the chat room of the Amazon. The book is available on Amazon.
mm-hmm.
And
his near-death experiences were very, very detailed. He actually, went through the tunnel and actually saw the Council of Elders. He had his whole life review while he was in spirit there, and saw all of the things that he did, and he felt whatever he did to someone else that was negative, he actually felt that in his life review. And when he came back down, he now works, I forgot what the Twilight Brigade is, he works at a hospice. And what that is he sits at the bedside with people that are dying in the hospice and just talks to them and supports them and tells them about life on the other side. He changed his whole life because of his near-death experience, and now he's delivering service to humanity, helping thousands. He's amazing, and he died 3 times, came back.
Yeah, the movie was made in 1995, and it was a great rating.
Yeah.
And quite a good cast as far as I can see. Absolutely fascinating. I think I'll try to watch that if I can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I saw a bit. I think you could see bits and pieces of it on YouTube. I don't know if they have the whole movie up, but I saw some of it on YouTube. It was amazing.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, he was on his way down to the morgue also. He had been dead for, I think it was an hour or so, something like that.
28 minutes.
And Patrick, clinically speaking, how long does it take before the brain supposedly starts to die?
As soon as your heart stops beating, you have 10 seconds before your brain dies. All activity of the brain will cease.
And yet all these people who die and come back, who have been pronounced clinically dead, even if they came back, theoretically, they should have brain damage, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what's amazing about this. There's obviously no damaged brain cells in the people that we've been speaking to.
Exactly.
Very articulate, and the enthusiasm, what blows me away, is the enthusiasm they have for the subject that they have. Now, I don't know, either Suzanne or Christine, do you often get to speak about your experiences outside of a venue like we have provided here?
I actually didn't speak about it. I didn't feel comfortable speaking about it because I didn't know what people were going to think. But it was funny, when I saw Barbara's invitation, I said, you know what, something inside me said, now is the time. I need to do this now. And once I did it, I feel very confident now. I feel very fulfilled inside that I actually did this. And I would love to speak about it all the time now. It just made me feel good. I feel like I helped someone. I felt like I had to get this message out.
Well, you know, I said to Patrick earlier today that the response has been so phenomenal. Someone, not me, but someone should start a Blog Talk Radio program to provide a platform for people who have had this experience to gather in, to talk to each other, to see, you know, what their similarities are, to see how they're helping humanity. I think, you know, Blog Talk Radio is fabulous. You can do a show for free, for heaven's sakes. You know, put yourself out there. I mean, come on. It's a great idea.
It really is. It's a great idea. I feel very comfortable and confident now.
if you need any help walking yourself through setting something like that up, call me and we'll do it.
Oh, thank you. Will do.
Well, also, like Barbara says, we're going to do another show again on Friday, and we'd really enjoy it if you join us then.
Oh, wonderful. I definitely will.
Yeah, we could, you know, I don't think there's going to be any end to the interest in this, because the profoundness of what this portends for the human race. Of course, I have a view that I definitely will be passing on to a higher level. I know Barbara feels the same way, and Billy Brinkley, my partner in my work, feels the same way, that we're going to go. But to think that now we have I've talked about it in a peripheral way. I've thought about it. I haven't thought about it I'll have to admit, I haven't thought about it in as serious or in-depth a way as I do now, listening to you all. Even though I listened to your conversations with with Barbara during the interviews that she did with you, and still. Having heard those, but hearing it again, and it's always in a different way, is absolutely fascinating. And I want to thank you for being so straightforward about it and upfront. And I guess it's important to have this outlet. There are organizations around that like NDE. Let's see, where are my notes on that? The big one is nderf.org, nderf.org. Wait, excuse me, that's not let's see, the Internet Association. Yeah, that is Near-Death Experience Research Foundation. That is the one. And got it. Did you, when it happened to you, Suzanne, were you aware that such a phenomenon existed?
I don't know. When it did happen to me, I felt very comfortable. It felt very normal. So I think as a child, we're all connected to the other side. I think all children are. Everybody has been, and they kind of grow out of it when we start, getting our belief systems and listening to what other people have to say. But I think there definitely was a familiarity there. Like I knew this was something that had happened to me before, and that it was just familiar to me.
Right.
As a child, I knew that. And then as the memory came back, 30 years later, I'm thinking, then I was like, wow, that really happened to me. This really exists. So I think that aha moment was 30 years later, not actually when it happened. I was fine with it then. It was kind of 30 years later, like, wow, this happened. And I figured out what it was, a near-death experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see now. You didn't actually go to the hospital, correct?
So Christina or Suzanne?
Okay. Well, Christina's no longer with us. You, Suzanne.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So me. No, I actually did not go to the hospital. The strange thing was, when I found myself standing outside the whirlpool tub there, I was totally fine. I thought about that. I wasn't choking. I wasn't spitting up water. I was completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing wrong. It was amazing. And I believe that man that I had seen, I believe that was my guardian angel, because after doing some research, I noticed that guardian angels, or any kind of angels, sometimes they take human form to help. And I think it took human form to kind of help me to snap out of it, to say, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to go to your parents now. What just happened was great, but now you need to, snap back into reality. You're back. You got to go and do what you got to do now. So, no, I was actually fine physically, which was very interesting to me, because after you drown, you shouldn't be. You should at least have to be resuscitated or something. But, no, I came out of it totally fine.
I have a question. Do you sometimes look in crowds to see if you can find that man?
You know, I have a very clear picture of him in my head, and I'm sure if I did see him, he would stand right out to me.
I would be looking for him, I think.
You know, he might pop in. You never know. But I know if I do see him, I would know it in an instant, a split second. I would know it.
Do you know anybody else that has personally that has had a near-death experience?
Personally, no. I never did. I didn't meet anybody personally. I had just been doing some research and, you know, found Daniel Brinkley and found some people that have been talking about it for many years. But
then again, let me ask another question.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody know that you'd had a near-death experience?
No, no one did.
So,
no?
So the whole point is that you could have met dozens, if not hundreds, of people throughout your life that have gone through the same thing you have, but had the same hesitance of talking about it, or just simply didn't think that it was that important. Of course, would you say that that's the most profound experience you've had in your entire life?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving, because when times get tough or things get hard, I just think about that, all the love that I was, and it just makes me stronger. It's just, I can't believe that it actually happened to me, and I keep thinking, this gift was given to me. I need to give it back to the world. And every day I wake up and I think, what can I do to help someone today?
Well, that's such a good thing. Michelle said the same thing, did she not, Barbara?
Yes, she did. She
She
goes out of her way to do random acts of kindness, which I think
that's not what I was talking about. What I was talking about was that she and yes, that is a consistent thing throughout the all the experiences that I've heard about. But that she goes back to that time for comfort.
Oh yeah.
Think about it. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And what you know, you and I have talked about it. Billy and I have talked about it. We've tried to figure out, is there anything in the human experience that has such consistency? I had a situation that happened to me. I was dealing with a lawyer, and we were in a lawyer's bar in Phoenix, Arizona. I can remember the name of the bar. It was called Under 3. And in that bar were judges, lawyers, police officers, state sheriffs or state marshals. There were a couple of FBI agents in there, and I think there was one Secret Service guy that was attached to the Secret Service there in Phoenix when it happened. And I don't know whether you guys remember, or I presume you do, when we had streakers, people that would run through public areas naked. Well, this bar got streaked, and I just happened to be there when it happened. I didn't see much of anything. It just happened so fast. They ran in the front door and ran out the back. And somebody decided to call the police about it. And it turns out that one of my attorney knew one of the police officers. And after he got all the witness testimony about what it was, he called him over and he says, "Well, what happened?" Because we didn't really see it. And he said, "Let me tell you something, son." He said, "I've got there are people in this bar that are trained for years to be excellent observers, and I guarantee you, not one person in this bar told me the same story." And that's in real life. They cannot even get it right when there's 30 or 40 people looking at something happening, and they still can't get it. They still can't agree on what happened. But so the phenomena of the near-death experience has within itself, by its very nature, another phenomena that is not known in anything that I know of, any paranormal anomalous things or anywhere else on the planet, that it is absolutely consistent. And like I said, I got 5 people I'm talking to, and said, "Do any one of you disagree on this?" You can't get two people in the same room that will agree on much of anything at all, but you got like 5 people that are all agreeing. And then you add to that all of the other things that we have studied, all of the videos that I watched, and all the experiences that I've heard about over the years. I've gone through this for many years. I've been seeing this phenomenon pass through my world and never really considered the importance of it, and yet I cannot think of anything that anybody else said that they disagree with. Now, there's a few yo-yos out there that claim they went to hell and they saw hell, and they went to heaven and they saw heaven. But that's just, that doesn't fit with the whole thing. So I just presumed that it's just a Christian kind of thing. Now, one thing that I was a little bit worried about, that I expressed to Barbara, was that I'm worried about the church hijacking this concept, and I've seen a few articles where they are attempting to use this to prove that there's a God. Now, it makes no difference to me what anyone feels their God is or what their God is about. I just don't want you shoving it down other people's throats, and I don't like the idea that you're making a whole bunch of money doing it. That's one of the things, and especially the intolerance and the general attitude of the church itself. But what I'm worried about, and this is just a personal concern on my part, that they're going to use it to fill that fight. You see, they have to deal with it, of course. Probably, I guarantee you, the single source that probably knows the most about near-death experiences is the Catholic Church, because people are encouraged to speak to their priest about anything that happens. Priests want to know what's going on, and so they make sure that that their parishioners are open to them, and they have confessions and things like that, and they certainly learn a lot about what's going on. So I'm sure that I would love to get a hold of the Vatican. I'm sure the Catholic Church has done a study on near-death experiences, and I'd like to see what their opinion of it is.
We should get a priest on.
That would be interesting, yes. Do we know any priests, Barbara?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I don't know exactly how that would go. Actually, I can check right now to see. The new Advent is the Catholic Encyclopedia, and I'll see if they have anything about it. I didn't think of looking at that.
Well, you know, Patrick, the way that I found these wonderful people was I posted it on Facebook.
Yes.
And there are lots of priests and nuns who have Facebook accounts.
Yes.
So we could just try doing that.
Get right on it.
I'll do it now.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking. Nope. They do not discuss it. It goes from Nazarite to Nebo. And that's it. So the Catholic Church has nothing to say about it, and that's rather disappointing, because I know they hear about it. If we hear about it, Brian L. Weiss, I know that name. Yeah, okay, we'll take that under consideration, Spin Dave. Thank you. Do you know who he's talking about, Barbara?
No, but I'll find out.
Oh, is that Brian Weiss? He wrote the book Many Lives, Many Masters?
Oh, it's a great book. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that is a fantastic book.
Yes, he talks a lot about past life regression.
I've got his website. So, Yeah, well, we'll definitely consider that. See if we can get in touch with Mr. Weiss and see if he wants to come in. Now, let's see. Spin Dave, do you know whether he's had a near-death experience? Why do you recommend that we get in touch with him if you don't mind telling us?
Oh, Many Lives, Many Masters, Patrick, is a book that deals with it to a certain extent.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
More like reincarnation, actually, but yeah.
Right. Right. Well, we've only got about 20 minutes left. One of the things that we're thinking about doing, and I think we're going to do that hopefully on, let's see, when did we figure we could do that, Barbara?
Monday.
A show on the oil spill and the environment in general?
That was Monday.
Okay, well,
at least at our last conference.
Hopefully we'll be able to get Billy to come into the show. I think we're going to try that on Monday and get a show out on what's happening in New Orleans. That's a real serious thing. You remember I was asking you, Barbara, there's something else that was going on that this thing just sort of overshadowed? It was the volcano.
Oh,
yeah, you remember the volcano? What happened to that? Well, apparently there's more happening with that as well. But this, the whole thing about, one of the things, we were talking about, I hate to change the subject so much, but this is an interesting lead into what we're going to be talking about. They do have shutoff valves attached to those wellheads. And what they are is big handles that have to be turned. You have to physically send somebody down to turn them off and on. And the government has been trying for years to get BP to put automatic remote, in other words, something that's not on the rig, but something that's away from the rig that can be activated automatically to shut that wellhead down. And BP actually resisted it and got away with it, and have not done that. And that's what is happening right now. And the thing that's important, and I think Suzanne will probably agree with us, that one of the most important things that we need to do, and especially with the understanding of the revelation that she has, is that we are stewards of this planet, and we need to take care of it. And you can be as spiritual as you want, but if you don't have any place to live, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. You might as well just go ahead and pass over then. And the destruction that we're doing to our planet, the wars that are going on in our society now, we've got there's something like 6 major wars going on, things that you never hear about that are happening. We've got a lot of injustices being done with people, but then again, the society is fighting back. There are massive demonstrations against the harsh immigration laws in the state of Arizona right now. They are marching on Washington, D.C. and New York. There was a big march complaining about these greedy corporations. And if you look at all of this, I mean, what's causing the environmental destruction down in Louisiana? A corporation. What's brought our country to its knees economically? A corporation. So that's one of the things that we focus on. That it's not just the corporation. In the corporation, and in all corporate charters, there is a law. Basically, it's the only thing that is consistent throughout all corporate charters, that the board of directors is supposed to look out for the stockholders and to make sure that their stocks increase. And so they're under pressure. That's how they're raised now. it would be nice if they didn't exist. I would just as soon have a world without money. That's one of the things that I have been preaching for years and years and years, that we can certainly do, if we learn how to share. When we're children, it's what's amazing is that when we're children, and every one of us, I know every one of us, everybody that's listening to me was taught it by somebody sometime in the past that it's good to share things with other people, and you're taught to do that, and they put it through you in school until you get to the real world, and then all of a sudden it ain't that way. You don't share anything. The game is really simple. You are supposed to be a good worker bee for the corporation and a good customer of the product that corporation comes out with. And the more you're able to play that game, the higher your credit score. And, of course, you never want to do anything with cash. You always want to get yourself in debt up to your ears so they can charge you much more than, you go out. Buying something on sale with a credit card is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. It makes no sense at all because they're going to get you on the interest. They're going to get you from that standpoint. And then, while this is all going on, while you're playing this game, you're also playing another game, and it's called Get As Many Toys as You Can Before You Die. We are trained that way from childhood. It is a consistent, this dog-eat-dog, this cutthroat thing that we see going on, where, we see these corporations talking openly in their emails and in their phone conversations about how good it is to be greedy, and how they were laughing as our economy was imploding. They were laughing their butts off and having a good time. And then here we go when we bail out these Goldman Sachs is such a classic example of that. And fortunately, the government has a criminal investigation going on right now. They are reporting the highest income in the history. They're moving right up there with Exxon and Mobil with these record-breaking quarterly dividends, these quarterly profit statements, and they have the gall and audacity to take the public's money. They still haven't paid us back what they borrowed, even though they sort of give an indication that they have, but they still haven't done that. And they have set aside $5 billion in bonuses for their top executives. And they are, the bailout worked. They're all rich and they're all happy and everything like that. Meanwhile, we have the highest unemployment since the Depression. We're coming out of it, but it's not going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. The American dream is gone. The American dream of being able to own as much as you can of those toys that we were talking about, gathering all those toys together, they won't even be able to play that game anymore. Now, that, to me, is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm very glad that people are seeing the hard side of life. I live in virtual poverty simply because of the fact that I am more dedicated to the human race than I am to I don't have a bunch of toys. I keep it. I live as simply as possible, and I don't believe that everybody else should do that. But it's just my choice. I just assume I've been rich. I've been in the upper crust of society, and I guarantee you that's one place that I didn't want to stay. I got out of there real quick. So the simple life, the spiritual life, actually trying to look at everybody, and it's very hard. And I don't say for 1 minute that I'm successful at it. I don't say that I'm a good guy. I am no better than anybody else. I make all the mistakes. I have all the wrong thoughts. I am very vulnerable to temptation. But if we just tried to, and somebody just said it. I'm part of a community food security project here in Berkeley, and while the recording was playing, I went over, and we were talking about what was going on in the streets. I live in a very rough neighborhood, and we were talking about what was going on the streets, and somebody said, well, can't we all just get along? I mean, it'd be nice if we could all just get along. And those were the words of Rodney King. Now, this is a guy who was a criminal. He had a bad attitude. He probably provoked the cops in some way, but he certainly didn't deserve the treatment he got. And after all of that, and after all the rioting and things like that, he was very sorry. He was sorry that he had caused so many problems, and he went on TV and he made a statement, well, can't we all just get along? And people made fun of him. People made him look like a yokel, and I guarantee you have never heard such profound words in your life. That's exactly what we should all strive to do, is if nothing else, just get along. Smile. I try to make it a habit of saying hello to everybody that I pass on the street. And it's absolutely amazing. I venture to guess that 85 to 90% of the time I get no recognition at all, because we are trained to ignore our fellow man. And not until we come to that point where we can look at our fellow man as family, just like we look at our brothers and our sisters and our mothers and our fathers, and until we come to the point where, just as Martin Luther King said, it is not the color of your skin, but the strength of your character that's important. And we need to get to that point, and we need to start taking care. It is a crime against humanity that I can count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and somebody has died on this planet from starvation, not because we don't have enough food, but because our distribution, there's plenty of food to feed the people on this planet, but the distribution is wrong. I can count to 6, and that number 6 will be a child that died of starvation. We have it's estimated that 10 million people are on the move right now on the planet somewhere, trying to find, because there's famine. They're trying to find food. They're moving into the cities, and that's what's happening. Our corporations have taken over our farmland and kicked the people off, and now all these people are coming into our cities. 11 of the 18 major cities in the world are right on the coast in dangerous zones. Just like what's going on in the Gulf Coast. Well, the oil spill is going to get them now, but it's estimated that nothing will be cleaned up, and then the hurricanes are going to come in. So and if I had my way, every single person on the planet would have to have a near-death experience before they're 20.
Well,
and I'd like to say, too, on that note, the American dream and owning sports cars and mansions, that's all an illusion, because when you die and you're on the other side, the only questions that are asked of you, first of all, your pure love. So how many sports cars you drove or that you owned, it means nothing. From what Daniel Brinkley had said when he had his life review, they asked him 2 questions. Number 1, how did you treat your fellow human beings? And the other question was, what did you do to serve humanity? And those were the questions that were asked of him. They didn't ask how much money did you make and how many corporations did you own. That means nothing. It's all an illusion here. That's not what's important. It's how we treated each other and how we served each other and how we made the world a better place. That's what matters.
Yes. And even something as simple as, one of the things that you hear, just do a single random kindness for somebody every day. And just something that simple is very important.
I heard a wonderful story where this woman was in a post office, and she was in line, and she had noticed this woman that looked very sad. So this other woman actually just looked at her and gave her a smile. just a 1-second quick smile. And it turned out that that woman walked up to her and said, you know what? I was mailing the suicide note to my family. I was going to go home and kill myself. But you smiled at me, and you made me feel like I should stay here, that I was worth something because you smiled at me. Can you imagine what 1 second of smiling at a stranger can do? You have no idea how many lives you can change by just doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, people do respond. Unfortunately, not enough respond. And one thing that's important: it takes 132 muscles to frown. It takes 3 muscles to smile.
That's amazing.
So, well, we're coming to the end of the show. Suzanne, I want to thank you very much for being with us. You've certainly given us some great insight. We will have. We are going to do a show hopefully on Monday. It'll be called Spill Baby Spill, to get down to the bottom of what's happening with this environmental degradation that's going on the planet. There's many more things to talk about besides the spill. And then, Barbara, when is your next show coming up?
That would be Monday night. That's Nightlight on Blog Talk at 11 o'clock at night.
Okay. And then we will have a continuation of our conversations on near-death experiences on Friday, and hopefully you will join us, Suzanne.
Yes, and I don't have any kind of website or anything, but if anybody's out there listening that just wants to talk or has any questions, please, feel free. You can send me an email. I'm at loveandlightheals@gmail.com. I would love to take the time out and chat with you or help you in any way that I can. I would love to. Well,
go ahead and post your, are you in the chat room?
I was, but my computer just died.
Okay.
I got to bring it back to life.
A near-death experience.
Yes, I just had a near-death experience.
We'll definitely bring it up on the next show. And I presume the ladies that were with us earlier will be listening to the rest of the show on archive, and I want to thank you all. It was an amazing experience for me, and I know Barbara feels the same way. This is you take a whole new view of life. How can you not, when it's the consistency of it, which is one thing that is so solidly positive about this, how could you not believe from hearing it from 5 people the same way? I could probably say I've heard it from 100 people the same way, that the hope that you feel personally, if you believe that that's the situation, it's very hard not to. It would take an extreme skeptic to think that this is not a real experience. And so once again, thank you. And the important thing that we all need to realize is that we all came from different places. We all sailed to this place on different ships. But bottom line, we're all in the same boat. And we have to start thinking that way. We have to start realizing that we are not just bodies carrying around a brain. We are a brain that uses a body for transportation. And that's what we are. So thank you again, Suzanne. Thank you, Barbara. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, and many blessings and love and light to you all.
Thank you.
You too.
Wow. You still with us, Suzanne?
Oh, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the show is not streaming any longer, but we're still
Recording.
We're still recording. But yeah, that was absolutely fascinating. I'm not emotionally drained. I am spiritually. So many things go through your head when you're thinking about this and the profoundness of what we've been talking about.
I am so thankful that you put this out there as a platform for me to actually come out and talk about my experience.
Yeah, that must be pretty cool. I didn't quite think about the isolation that you must feel. It's like, I don't know. It's like you found, like finding a treasure somewhere.
Right, exactly. It's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, you can't tell anybody about it because nobody's going to believe you.
Exactly. It's like it's a great insight. Like, oh, if just everybody could hear what I have to say, but you're kind of like, ooh, I don't know, should I not? But now is the time. I said, no. Something inside me said, no, this has to come out. I have to share this. It's something. It's knowledge that I have, and when you have knowledge, you just have to share it. That's what it's for.
Yeah, well, I just wonder how the other people that were on the show, they're probably wouldn't. I think they're probably all in the same boat that you are.
Yeah, probably.
But, it's very hard